If they knew who was sitting 6 feet behind them, neither man would have finished that sentence. Special Agent Maya Brooks kept her eyes on the paper coffee cup between her hands as Officer Grant Holloway laughed at something his younger partner had said. It was just after 7 in the morning inside a small coffee shop outside Richmond, Virginia, the kind of place where commuters moved quickly, regulars knew the cashier by name, and nobody paid much attention to the woman in the gray coat sitting alone near the window. That was exactly why Maya had chosen it. For 6 months, she had lived under another name, driven an ordinary sedan, rented a modest apartment, and trained herself to become forgettable. Today was supposed to be simple. Coffee, 10 quiet minutes, then a drive across town to complete the most sensitive evidence transfer of the operation. Maya lifted the cup toward her lips without drinking. Behind her, Holloway spoke again. "I am telling you, Night Lantern is finished after tonight." Maya froze for less than a second. Nobody watching would have noticed. Her fingers did not tighten. Her breathing did not change. Her eyes remained fixed on the rain sliding down the window. But inside her mind, every ordinary sound in the room disappeared. Night Lantern. The words were not supposed to exist outside a tightly controlled Federal Bureau of Investigation operation. Fewer than a dozen people knew the designation. 2 local police officers should never have known it at all. Officer Tyler Reed lowered his voice. "You sure about the time?" Holloway answered without hesitation. 9:30. Same address. Black sport utility vehicle comes through the east entrance. Maya slowly stirred her coffee. 9:30. East entrance. Every detail matched the evidence handoff she was scheduled to attend that night. A waitress passed their table, and Holloway glanced toward Maya. "Some people really know how to take up space," he muttered, loud enough for her to hear. Maya had moved her chair slightly into the aisle when she sat down. She shifted it without turning around. "Sorry," she said calmly. Holloway gave a dismissive smile. "Figures." Reed looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. Maya had heard tones like that before. The small assumptions that asked one person to prove they belonged while allowing another to move through the world unquestioned. Normally, she would have let it disappear into the background. Today she could not afford to feel insulted. She could only listen. Holloway continued talking as if the black woman behind him were invisible. "The woman in the gray coat is the only variable." Maya's spoon stopped against the rim of the cup. Once, a tiny metallic click. Reed whispered, "What happens if the Federal Bureau of Investigation agent shows up early?" Holloway leaned back in his chair. Maya could see his reflection in the darkened window now, his face relaxed, confident, completely unaware that the woman he was discussing could see every movement. "She will not," he said. Someone on the inside already made sure of that. Maya felt the insult from moments earlier disappear beneath something colder. This was no longer about 2 officers knowing too much. Someone inside her own operation had given them information. Her identity might already be compromised. Her meeting certainly was. Maya took one final sip, placed $5 beneath the cup, and stood without looking toward either officer. Holloway barely noticed her leave. Reed did. His eyes followed the gray coat through the door with a nervousness Maya caught in the reflection of the glass. She stepped into the damp Virginia morning, walked calmly toward her car, and resisted every instinct telling her to reach for her telephone. If the leak was inside the Federal Bureau of Investigation, calling the wrong person could end the operation before she understood what she had just heard. Maya unlocked her sedan, slid behind the wheel, and looked once into the rearview mirror. Holloway and Reed were still inside. She started the engine. Then a police cruiser parked across the street switched on its headlights. The headlights across the street stayed on, bright against the wet pavement, but the cruiser did not move. Maya Brooks kept both hands resting lightly on the steering wheel and forced herself not to look twice. An undercover agent survived by respecting the difference between danger and the appearance of danger, and right now she did not know which one she was seeing. She pulled away from the curb at an ordinary speed, turned onto the main road, and joined the morning traffic heading toward downtown Richmond. In the rearview mirror, the coffee shop disappeared behind a line of delivery trucks. The cruiser remained parked. For the first mile, nothing followed her. Then a familiar shape entered the lane 3 cars back. White patrol sedan. No emergency lights. No urgency. Just presence. Maya changed lanes once. The cruiser changed lanes 30 seconds later. She took the next right even though it led away from her planned route. The cruiser followed. Her face remained composed, but every detail from the coffee shop was now rearranging itself inside her mind. Night lantern. 9:30. East entrance. The woman in the gray coat. Someone on the inside. Those were not fragments of gossip. They were operational intelligence. Worse, Holloway had spoken with the confidence of someone who believed the outcome had already been arranged. Maya drove another half-mile and stopped at a red light. The patrol car settled 2 vehicles behind her. She could see only part of the driver through the mirror. Male. Uniformed. No clear face. Her secure telephone remained hidden inside a compartment beneath the center console. Normally, a compromised operation meant immediate contact with her supervisor, assistant special agent, in charge Rebecca Lawson. But if Holloway was telling the truth about an insider, Maya could not assume the normal chain was clean. 6 months of work suddenly depended on one uncomfortable question. Who knew enough to betray her? The light turned green. Maya continued straight. She passed the street that would have taken her toward the Federal Bureau of Investigation field office, and instead headed toward a commercial district filled with warehouses, tire shops, and morning delivery traffic. The cruiser stayed behind her. Maya reached for an ordinary prepaid telephone used only for her cover identity and called a recorded weather information number. She let it connect for 5 seconds, then ended the call. Nothing useful had happened, at least not to anyone watching. But the brief action gave her an excuse to glance toward the passenger mirror. The cruiser was closer now. At the next intersection, it finally turned away. Maya did not relax. Being followed and then released could be more revealing than being stopped. Someone might only have been confirming her direction. She drove another 3 miles before pulling into a busy grocery store parking lot. Families pushed carts between rows of cars. Employees collected baskets. Ordinary movement surrounded her, giving her something she desperately needed: witnesses without attention. Maya remained inside the sedan and opened the hidden compartment. Her secure device powered on silently. She did not call Lawson. Instead, she entered a short emergency authentication sequence that bypassed ordinary messaging and created a sealed alert visible only to a restricted counterintelligence channel. She typed 7 words: Night lantern compromised. Do not contact field team. Her thumb hovered over the final command. Sending it would change everything. The operation might be frozen. Every agent connected to it could be quietly examined. And if Maya was wrong, 6 months of work could collapse because she had overheard 2 officers talking over coffee. Then she remembered Holloway's final sentence. Someone on the inside already made sure of that. Maya sent the alert. Less than 15 seconds later, the device vibrated once. A reply appeared from an authentication code she recognized, but had never expected to see outside an emergency. Maintain cover. Trust no local contact. A second message followed. Do not attend tonight's location. Maya stared at the screen. She had expected caution. She had not expected confirmation. Then a third message appeared, and for the first time that morning, her composure nearly broke. Internal leak already suspected. Your coffee shop encounter may identify it. Maya read the message twice, then powered down the secure device and returned it to the hidden compartment beneath the console. The grocery store parking lot moved around her as if nothing had changed. A mother lifted paper bags into the back of a minivan. An employee pushed a long row of carts toward the entrance. Somewhere nearby, a truck engine rumbled to life. Ordinary sounds. Ordinary people. But Maya now knew that somewhere inside the operation she had trusted for 6 months, someone had been feeding information to the outside. She could not call Rebecca Lawson. She could not warn the field team. She could not even assume the officers she had heard at breakfast understood the full conspiracy they were serving. Her only advantage was that Grant Holloway believed she had walked out of the coffee shop knowing nothing. Maya started the sedan and drove east, away from the official field office and toward the small apartment she used under her cover identity. She took no direct route. Every few blocks, she changed direction naturally, stopped for traffic, checked storefront reflections, and watched for the same patrol car. Nothing obvious appeared. That should have reassured her. It did not. By 8:15, she entered her apartment building carrying a grocery bag she had purchased solely to make the trip look ordinary. Inside, she locked the door and set the bag on the kitchen counter. The apartment contained almost nothing personal because Maya Brooks did not officially live there. Her cover name did. She removed the gray coat and stared at it for several seconds. The woman in the gray coat. Holloway had not guessed. Someone had described her. Maya opened a narrow closet and retrieved a paper notebook from behind a stack of storage boxes. She never recorded classified details in it. Only patterns, dates, behaviors, people who appeared too often. She turned to a page from 3 weeks earlier. One name stood out, Detective Aaron Miles. He had been assigned as a local liaison during an earlier phase of Night Lantern and had asked an unusual question about transportation routes. Maya had considered it professional curiosity at the time. Now every harmless detail demanded a second look. She wrote nothing. Instead, she reconstructed the coffee shop conversation from memory. Holloway had sounded confident. Reed had sounded nervous. That distinction mattered. Tyler Reed had asked questions, not given instructions. He had looked at Maya when she left, and his expression had not carried recognition. It had carried fear. Fear of her, or fear for her. Maya could not yet tell. At 9:12, the prepaid telephone connected to her cover identity vibrated on the counter. One text message appeared from an unknown number. Maya did not touch it immediately. She waited, studying the screen from several feet away. Then she picked up the phone. The message contained only an address on the south side of Richmond and 4 words, "Do not go tonight." No name, no explanation. Maya felt her pulse quicken. The address was not the compromised evidence site. It was an abandoned municipal storage building she remembered from an unrelated surveillance operation months earlier. Very few local officers would know she had ever been there. She read the message again. If this was a warning, someone wanted to help her without exposing himself. If it was bait, someone wanted to move her somewhere outside the original plan. Both possibilities pointed in the same direction. Somebody from the coffee shop had found a way to contact her. Maya slipped the prepaid telephone into her pocket and walked to the window. Across the street, a delivery van had been parked beside the curb for nearly 10 minutes. The driver never stepped out. She watched its windshield through the blinds until her secure device vibrated from inside the console compartment in the next room. One new instruction had arrived from counterintelligence. Controlled deception authorized. Create false meeting. Maya stared at those words and understood the opportunity immediately. Whoever had leaked Night Lantern already believed the Real transfer would happen at 9:30 that evening. The Federal Bureau of Investigation no longer needed to protect that meeting. It could replace it. Maya opened the notebook, drew one line through the original address, and wrote the abandoned storage building beneath it. Then she looked toward the gray coat hanging beside the door. This time, the woman Holloway thought he understood would give him exactly what he expected to see. Maya left the gray coat on the back of a kitchen chair until the afternoon light had faded from the apartment windows. She spent the next several hours doing what undercover work often required most, nothing that looked important. She washed a coffee cup, answered a routine message through her cover account, and walked once to the corner market for bottled water. Every ordinary action protected the illusion that she had not heard enough to be afraid. At 6:45, the secure device vibrated again. The message was brief. False site approved. Limited support only. Maintain cover. Maya read it carefully. Limited support meant the Federal Bureau of Investigation wanted the leak to expose itself before a larger team moved in. Too much visible protection could scare away whoever believed tonight still belonged to them. Maya dressed exactly as Holloway expected. Gray coat, dark slacks, low black shoes, nothing distinctive. She placed an empty document envelope inside a plain leather bag and left the apartment at 7:20. Richmond traffic had thinned, but the streets were still active enough to hide movement. Maya drove south, took 2 unnecessary turns, and checked reflections in storefront windows. No marked patrol car followed. A dark sedan appeared twice, then disappeared. She did not decide whether that mattered. At 8:10, she stopped at a gas station and bought a bottle of water. The cashier barely looked at her. Outside, Maya noticed a man sitting inside a pickup truck near the edge of the lot. He never looked directly at her, yet his side mirror stayed angled toward the entrance. Maya continued walking. She had learned long ago that surveillance became most visible when you wanted too badly to see it. The abandoned municipal storage building sat 3 miles away behind a row of closed repair shops and chain-link fencing. By 8:45, Maya parked 1 block from the entrance and approached on foot, carrying the leather bag at her side. The building was dark except for a weak security light over a side door. The place smelled faintly of rain and old concrete. Nothing moved. Maya entered through an unlocked service door and waited near an interior hallway where she could see the main loading area without standing in the open. Her secure device remained silent. At 9:12, headlights swept across the far wall. A vehicle entered the lot, paused, then rolled forward slowly. Maya recognized the shape before she recognized the driver. A police cruiser. It stopped near the loading entrance. Grant Holloway stepped out first. He was not in uniform. Dark jacket, jeans, no visible badge. Tyler Reed arrived 6 minutes later in his own car. He stayed behind the wheel longer than Holloway liked. Maya could hear Holloway's voice carry through the open loading area. "You are late." Reed answered quietly. "I almost did not come." Maya shifted slightly behind a concrete support column. She could see both men now. Holloway looked impatient. Reed looked exhausted. "You sent the warning, did you not?" Holloway asked. Reed said nothing. Maya felt something inside the puzzle move into place. Holloway took one step closer. "You think I did not notice you watching her leave this morning?" Reed looked toward the dark building. "She does not deserve to get pulled into this." Holloway gave a short laugh. "She is already in it." Maya remained still. Then Holloway said the sentence she had been waiting for all day. "Once Lawson confirms the package is moved, none of this matters." Rebecca Lawson, Maya's supervisor. The name landed harder than anything she had heard in the coffee shop. For 6 months, Lawson had approved her reports, cleared her meetings, and controlled access to every sensitive detail of Night Lantern. Maya had considered her the safest person in the operation. Now Holloway had just connected her directly to the leak. Reed looked stunned. "You said the source was local." "I said what you needed to hear." Holloway reached into his jacket and pulled out a phone, checking the screen. Maya's secure device vibrated once against her side. She did not look down. Holloway smiled faintly. "She should be here any minute." Maya stepped out from behind the column with the leather bag still in her hand. Both men turned. Holloway's expression barely changed at first. Then he recognized the gray coat. Maya stopped 20 feet away. "You were right about one thing," she said calmly. "I am here." Reed stared at her. Holloway narrowed his eyes. Maya held his gaze. "But Rebecca Lawson is not the person you should be waiting for now." Maya watched Grant Holloway's face change as the meaning of her words settled over the loading area. His confidence did not disappear all at once. It broke in pieces. First the smile vanished. Then his eyes moved toward the dark entrance behind Maya. Then toward Tyler Reed, as though he were trying to decide which of them had betrayed him first. Reed remained beside his car, shoulders tense, staring at Maya with a mixture of fear and relief. "Who are you?" Holloway asked. Maya held the leather bag loosely at her side. "You already know enough to be worried." Holloway gave a humorless laugh. "You think overhearing a conversation makes you important?" The insult was deliberate, familiar, almost comforting in its predictability. Maya had heard variations of it before, from people who believed a black woman's silence meant uncertainty and restraint meant weakness. She did not correct him. "Not yet." "You sent someone to follow me this morning," she said. Holloway glanced toward Reed. "You are imagining things." "White patrol sedan. 3 cars back on Broad Street. Changed lanes after I did. Turned away after the commercial district." Reed looked at Holloway. That reaction told Maya more than the denial. Holloway's expression hardened. "You have been busy." "So have you." Maya looked toward the phone in his hand. "Who were you expecting to call?" Holloway slipped it into his pocket. "None of your business." Maya almost smiled. 6 months undercover had taught her that people revealed themselves most clearly when they believed they still controlled the information. She needed Holloway talking. She needed Reed listening. Most of all, she needed confirmation that Rebecca Lawson's name meant what it appeared to mean. "You said Lawson would confirm the package was moved," Maya said. Reed turned sharply toward Holloway. "You told me you did not know the source." Holloway ignored him. "Tyler, get in your car." Reed did not move. "Is Lawson the source?" "Go home. You brought me into this." Holloway's patience slipped. "I kept you employed when nobody else trusted you. Remember that." Maya saw Reed's face tighten. There it was. Not loyalty. Leverage. Holloway had not recruited a partner. He had found someone vulnerable enough to control. Reed looked toward Maya. "This morning, I sent the warning." Holloway stared at him. "Tyler." Reed continued. "I did not know who she was. I only knew you were talking about setting her up. Maya remained still even as the final uncertainty shifted. Why warn me? Reed swallowed. Because what started as favors stopped feeling like favors a long time ago. Holloway stepped between them, trying to regain the center of the conversation. He is scared. He will say anything. Maya's secure device vibrated once beneath her coat. One signal. Confirmation that the remote team was listening. Holloway did not know every word was being preserved. Maya looked directly at him. Tell me about Lawson. There is nothing to tell. Then you will not mind repeating what you said 10 minutes ago. His eyes narrowed. You were listening? For longer than you think. Silence settled across the warehouse. Rain tapped softly against the metal roof. Holloway looked toward the exit, then back at Maya. For the first time, calculation replaced arrogance. You are law enforcement. It was not a question. Maya gave him nothing. Reed slowly reached into his jacket and removed his telephone. I recorded him, he said. Holloway's head turned. Reed held the device where Maya could see it. 3 weeks of calls. Names. Payments. Meeting locations. Lawson is on one of them. Holloway's expression went blank. Maya finally understood why Reed had looked terrified in the coffee shop. He had not been afraid that Maya recognized him. He had been afraid Holloway would realize he had already chosen a side. Maya extended one hand. Give me the phone. Reed started toward her. Holloway spoke quietly behind him. If you hand that over, you destroy your career. Reed stopped. Maya watched him wrestle with the warning. Then he turned and looked at Holloway. Maybe. He took another step toward Maya. But keeping it destroyed something else. He placed the phone in her hand. Maya looked at the screen. The most recent recording had been created less than an hour earlier. She pressed play. Holloway's voice filled the quiet warehouse, followed by a woman's voice Maya knew immediately. Rebecca Lawson. Once Brooks takes the package, the recording said, I will make sure she never knows who redirected it. Maya felt the betrayal settle fully into place. Her supervisor had not merely leaked the operation. She had designed the trap around Maya herself. Maya did not move for several seconds after Rebecca Lawson's voice stopped playing. The warehouse seemed to contract around the silence, every distant sound suddenly sharper than before. Rain tapped against the metal roof. A truck passed somewhere beyond the chain-link fence. Grant Holloway watched her carefully, searching for the reaction he expected from someone who had just discovered that her own supervisor had betrayed her. Maya gave him none. She lowered Tyler Reed's telephone and looked at the recording time. 53 minutes earlier. Recent enough to matter. Recent enough to prove Lawson was still actively directing the operation. Holloway tried to recover his confidence. A recording does not prove what you think it proves. Maya looked at him. Then explain it. You do not know the context. I know my name. Holloway said nothing. Reed stepped farther away from him. There are more recordings, he said. She was moving information through Holloway for months. At first I thought they were protecting informants. Then I started noticing evidence disappearing before warrants were served. Maya's eyes stayed on Holloway. How many operations? Reed answered quietly. At least 3 that I know about. Holloway shook his head. He is trying to save himself. Maya nodded once. Maybe. That is why evidence matters. She pressed another recording. This one contained Holloway discussing a vehicle description, followed by Lawson confirming a location Maya recognized from an earlier investigation. Another recording followed. Then another. Each piece was small. Together, they formed something impossible to dismiss. Lawson had been selecting information, redirecting enforcement, and deciding which targets received warning before federal action. Night Lantern had not been compromised in a single moment. It had been leaking for months. Maya felt anger rising beneath the discipline she had spent years building, but anger could wait. Evidence could not. Her secure device vibrated twice. The signal meant the counterintelligence team had enough probable cause to move. Maya slipped Reed's telephone into an evidence pouch from her bag. Holloway noticed. Who exactly are you? He asked again. Maya met his eyes. The person your source told you would never understand what happened. His expression changed. Outside, several unmarked vehicles entered the property without sirens or flashing lights. Their headlights washed across the warehouse walls. Reed looked toward the entrance. Holloway did not. He was staring at Maya now, finally understanding that the quiet woman from the coffee shop had never been an accidental witness. Federal agents entered the loading area with controlled urgency, identifying themselves clearly as they secured the scene and separated the two officers for questioning. There was no chaos, no shouting, just procedure moving with the weight of preparation behind it. A senior counterintelligence agent approached Maya. "Agent Brooks." Holloway's eyes widened. Maya turned toward him before answering. "Yes." The single word changed the room. Holloway looked from Maya to the arriving agents, then toward Reed, as if searching for the moment when everything had escaped his control. Maya removed her cover identification from an inner pocket and replaced it with her Federal Bureau of Investigation credentials. Special Agent Maya Brooks. Holloway's face went still. The black woman he had dismissed in the coffee shop, the woman he believed could be watched, redirected, and manipulated, had been listening from the beginning. Reed exhaled slowly. "What happens to Lawson?" Maya looked toward the senior agent. "If she thinks tonight's transfer is still happening, we let her keep believing that." The agent nodded. Holloway finally spoke. "You cannot use me to get to her." Maya turned back. "I do not need to." She held up Reed's secured telephone. "You already did." The counterintelligence agent handed Maya a secure device displaying a single new instruction. "Lawson unaware. Maintain deception." Maya read it, then looked through the open warehouse door toward the rain-dark parking lot. The trap had changed again. It was no longer designed to discover whether someone inside the operation was leaking information. They knew who the leak was. Now they needed Rebecca Lawson to reveal how far the betrayal reached. Maya looked at the secure message one more time, then handed the device back to the senior counterintelligence agent. Rebecca Lawson still believed the original operation belonged to her. That illusion was now more valuable than any immediate arrest. Grant Holloway had been separated from Tyler Reed and placed under controlled supervision in another section of the warehouse, while Reed sat with two federal investigators giving a complete account of every meeting, message, and favor he could remember. Maya stood near a folding table covered with evidence bags and listened as the plan for the next phase took shape. Lawson expected confirmation that the package had been moved. She expected Holloway to report success. Most importantly, she expected Maya to remain confused. The Federal Bureau of Investigation intended to give her exactly that picture. One of the counterintelligence agents placed Holloway's telephone on the table. "She usually contacts him first?" Maya asked. Reed nodded from across the room. "Usually through short calls, sometimes coded messages. She never says much." Maya glanced at the clock. It was nearly 10:30. "Then we do not make her wait too long." Holloway was brought back into the loading area. His expression had changed since learning who Maya was. The arrogance was gone, replaced by the guarded caution of a man realizing that every word might matter. "You want me to call her?" he said. "No," Maya replied. "I want you to answer when she calls." Holloway looked at the telephone. "And if I refuse?" The senior agent answered calmly. "Then the investigation continues with the evidence already collected." Holloway lowered his eyes. He understood the difference. Cooperation could not erase what had happened, but silence would not stop the case either. At 10:42, the telephone vibrated. Everyone in the warehouse stopped moving. Rebecca Lawson's name did not appear. Only a number Holloway recognized immediately. Maya stepped closer but remained outside his direct line of sight. Holloway answered. "Yeah." Lawson's voice came through quietly. "Is it done?" Holloway glanced at Maya. She gave no expression. The package moved. A pause followed. "And Brooks?" Lawson asked. Holloway swallowed. "She never made the handoff." Another pause, longer this time. "Did she suspect anything?" Maya watched Holloway carefully. This was the moment when fear could make him improvise. "No," he said. She looked lost, like she was waiting for instructions that never came. Lawson exhaled softly. Maya felt the insult differently now. For months, Lawson had watched her work, approved her decisions, and praised her instincts. Yet behind closed doors, she had built an entire plan around the belief that Maya could be controlled through missing information. "Good," Lawson said. "Then tomorrow we finish this." Maya's eyes narrowed. Tomorrow. There was another step. Holloway looked toward the agents. "Where?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Lawson hesitated. "Same procedure. 11 in the morning. Jefferson parking structure, level 4. Bring the drive." Maya exchanged a glance with the senior agent. Reed had mentioned no drive. Holloway had mentioned no drive. Something larger was still hidden. "Understood," Holloway said. Lawson lowered her voice. "And Grant, Do not bring Reed. I do not trust him anymore. Tyler Reed heard every word from the far side of the room. His face tightened, but he stayed silent. Lawson ended the call. The warehouse remained still for several seconds afterward. Maya finally spoke. What drive? Holloway stared at the floor. I do not know. Reed shook his head. He knows. Holloway looked at him sharply. Reed continued. I heard Lawson mention a backup once. Something she called insurance. Maya stepped closer. Insurance against whom? Reed answered without hesitation. Everyone. Holloway closed his eyes. That reaction was enough. Maya understood that the operation had just changed again. Lawson was not merely leaking information to protect someone outside the bureau. She had collected something powerful enough to protect herself from the people involved. Where is it? Maya asked. Holloway remained silent. Maya did not press harder. She simply waited. Silence had worked in the coffee shop. It worked now. Finally, Holloway looked up. A safe deposit box outside the city. The drive contains payment records, names, case numbers, everything Lawson kept in case somebody turned on her. The senior agent immediately stepped away to notify the evidence team. Maya looked at Holloway. And tomorrow she expects you to hand it back. He nodded. Maya turned toward the dark warehouse entrance. The rain had stopped, leaving the pavement outside shining beneath the security lights. 6 months earlier, Night Lantern had begun as an investigation into a narrow corruption pipeline. By morning, it would become something much larger. Rebecca Lawson believed she was calling Holloway to erase the last threat to her operation. She had no idea she had just scheduled her own meeting with Maya. The next morning arrived clear and cold, with sunlight reflecting off the concrete levels of the Jefferson parking structure near downtown Richmond. Maya Brooks entered through the pedestrian stairwell at 10:43, 17 minutes before the scheduled meeting. She wore the same gray coat Holloway had described, not because she needed the disguise anymore, but because Rebecca Lawson expected to see it. In Maya's right hand was a plain black case prepared by the counterintelligence team. Inside was no original evidence, only a controlled data device designed to record access and preserve every attempt to open it. Federal agents were positioned across the structure in ordinary vehicles, maintenance uniforms, and office clothes. Nothing about the fourth level looked unusual. That was the point. Grant Holloway arrived first at 10:52. He parked near the far wall, stepped out, and waited beside a concrete pillar with the black case he had been instructed to carry. His movements were slower than the night before. He knew the meeting was controlled now, but knowing that did not make him comfortable. Maya remained out of sight behind the stairwell entrance. At 10:59, a dark blue sedan rolled onto the level. Rebecca Lawson was driving. Maya felt something tighten in her chest when she saw her. For 6 months, Lawson had been the voice on secure calls, the person who approved risk, demanded patience, and reminded Maya that trust was the foundation of undercover work. Now she stepped from the car wearing a navy coat and carrying herself with the same professional calm Maya had admired. Lawson approached Holloway without looking around. You have it? She asked. Holloway lifted the case. Everything you wanted. Lawson reached for it, then stopped. Where is Reed? Gone. Lawson's eyes narrowed. Gone where? Holloway gave the answer they had rehearsed. He got scared. I told him to stay out of it. Lawson studied him for several seconds. Maya could almost see the calculations moving behind her expression. And Brooks? Lawson asked. Holloway looked toward the concrete floor. Still thinks last night fell apart because of a scheduling failure. Lawson smiled faintly. Good. She was always capable, but she trusted structure too much. Maya heard every word through the concealed audio feed. The comment hurt more than she expected, not because Lawson doubted her, but because she had mistaken Maya's discipline for dependence. Holloway handed over the case. Lawson opened it just enough to confirm the device was inside. Once this is clean, Night Lantern disappears, she said. Holloway asked, and the payment records? Lawson's expression changed. What payment records? Holloway hesitated deliberately. The ones on the backup. Lawson stepped closer. Who told you about that? Maya waited. This was the moment they needed. Holloway answered. Reed heard you mention insurance. Lawson's calm finally cracked. He was never supposed to know that existed. The words were enough. Maya stepped from behind the stairwell wall. Lawson turned. For 1 second, neither woman spoke. The distance between them was less than 30 feet, but 6 months of trust stood in the space between them. Lawson looked at the gray coat, then at Maya's face, and understood immediately. You, she said. Maya walked forward at a measured pace. You were right about one thing. I trusted the structure. Lawson's eyes moved toward Holloway, then across the parking level, noticing details she had ignored before. A man reading a newspaper too carefully. A maintenance worker who had not moved in several minutes. A parked sedan with 2 people inside. How long? Lawson asked. Long enough. Maya stopped several feet away. Long enough to hear your call. Long enough to recover the recordings. Long enough to learn about the backup drive. Lawson's expression became still. You do not understand what you found. Maya held her gaze. Then explain it. Lawson looked at the controlled case in her hands. Night Lantern was never clean. People above both of us were protecting targets before you ever joined the operation. Maya felt the words settle into the silence. Names. Lawson looked around again, realizing every answer now mattered. On the real drive. Where? Lawson said nothing. Maya waited. The same patience that had protected her in the coffee shop now became pressure. Finally, Lawson spoke. Safe deposit box outside Charlottesville. But if you open it, this does not end with me. Maya's expression did not change. It was never supposed to. Federal agents stepped forward and identified themselves. Lawson did not resist. She simply looked at Maya with something between regret and disbelief. You were supposed to be the easiest part of this. Maya answered quietly. That was your mistake. 3 weeks after the Jefferson parking structure operation, Maya Brooks sat alone in a quiet conference room at the Richmond field office while morning lights stretched across a table covered with sealed evidence folders. The investigation had moved faster than anyone expected once the real drive was recovered from the safe deposit box outside Charlottesville. Payment records connected Rebecca Lawson to protected targets, compromised investigations, and several officials who had quietly redirected federal attention for years. Some names belonged to people Maya recognized. Others reached far beyond Night Lantern. Grant Holloway agreed to cooperate fully after investigators confronted him with the recordings and financial records. Tyler Reed became a key witness, turning over messages that showed when suspicion had first become certainty for him. Neither man walked away untouched. Holloway faced criminal and departmental consequences. Reed faced review for the months he had remained silent, even though his eventual cooperation helped expose the scheme. Maya understood the difference between redemption and escape. Helping at the end did not erase what came before, but truth still mattered when someone finally chose it. Lawson's case unfolded differently. She admitted leaking operational information but insisted she had originally entered the arrangement after discovering corruption above her level. Investigators found enough evidence to support part of that claim. Years earlier, she had tried to report suspicious interference and had been quietly warned that pursuing it could end her career. Somewhere along the way, fear became compromise, compromise became participation, and participation became control. Maya listened to that explanation without allowing it to become an excuse. The hardest betrayals were rarely committed by people who began by imagining themselves as villains. Sometimes they began with one decision to stay quiet, then another, then the belief that survival justified whatever came next. At the end of the month, Maya was asked to attend a review meeting in Washington. Senior officials praised her restraint at the coffee shop, her decision not to alert the compromised field chain, and the controlled deception that exposed Lawson. Maya accepted the recognition politely, but when one official called the case an example of exceptional instinct, she corrected him. Instinct started it, she said. Listening finished it. That evening, she returned to Richmond and drove past the same coffee shop where the first conversation had changed everything. For a moment, she considered stopping. Then she did. Inside, the same morning crowd had been replaced by students, office workers, and 2 families sharing tables near the window. Maya ordered coffee and sat in almost the same chair she had used weeks earlier. No gray coat this time. No cover identity. No compromised meeting waiting at the end of the day. Just Maya. At another table, 2 uniformed officers talked quietly over their drinks. She caught only fragments about traffic, schedules, and somebody's retirement party. Nothing secret. Nothing dangerous. She smiled faintly and looked toward the window. For 6 months, she had believed the hardest part of undercover work was becoming invisible. The operation had taught her something different. Being overlooked could become an advantage. but being underestimated could reveal the people who believed silence meant weakness. Holloway had dismissed her before he understood who she was. Lawson had trusted her competence while secretly believing she could control what Maya knew. Both had made the same mistake in different ways. They confused incomplete information with power. Maya lifted her cup as rain began tapping softly against the glass. She had not exposed the conspiracy by speaking louder than everyone around her. She had done it by noticing the sentence nobody thought she was important enough to hear, remaining composed when humiliation invited reaction, and waiting until every lie led back to the person who told it. The badge had opened doors for some of them. Rank had protected others. But in the end, neither authority nor secrecy decided who controlled the truth. The person who listened carefully enough did.